This is the tutorial for Concept 19, Skill 1, Metric Units of Length. And when we're talking about metric units of length, we're talking about the meters. So when we're talking about metric system, we have three main base units, and those base units are either the meter, the liter, or the gram. And so in this case, since we're talking about length, we're talking about the meter. Now, the metric system is a system of measurements used almost in all parts of the world. It uses prefixes. So when we're talking about a prefix, that's a part of a word in front of the word meter, and that will describe how much larger or smaller it is from the base unit. Again, that base unit in this case is our meter. And to convert a unit in the metric system, you need to either multiply or divide by a power of 10. So again, when we're multiplying by a power of 10, so multiply by 10, what we end up doing is we end up moving the decimal to the right. The decimal goes to the right. But then when we divide by a 10, what that does is it moves the decimal the other direction. We end up moving it to the left. And that's the way we're going to end up trying to do these problems. We're just going to move some decimals. And so this chart down below can give you some helpful hints about where to move the decimal. It gives us some conversion factors. For instance, milli means 1,000th. 1,000th of a meter. And so it's very small. Or centi is only 100th of a meter. And kilo means it's 1,000 meters, so it's very big. So you either have really big units like a kilo, or small units like a milli. And so millimeters or kilometers represents those units, whether it be big or small. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to try a few problems here. For instance, if we wanted to convert 34,000 millimeters to meters, we're going from a lot of little small units. So like millimeters would be like just a small little unit. Like these little dots I'm drawing here are like millimeters. That's the distance about of what a millimeter might look like. And so I'd have 34,000 of them. Well, how many are going to end up fitting in 1 meter? A meter is going to be really long, like this. But it's going to be even longer than that, because it wouldn't even fit on this screen. So how many of these little ones will make up one of these big ones? Well, remember, there's 1,000 millimeters in 1 meter. So you just have to convert by dividing. So when you go from a small unit to a large, and this is key, small unit to large, that means you're going to end up dividing. So the larger units, there's going to be less of them. So a way to also do that is just when you divide by 1,000 or divide by 10 or 100, you end up moving the decimals. So notice how I'm dividing by 1,000 with 3 zeros. That's the number of spaces that I moved that decimal. 1, 2, 3, and that's where I'm getting the answer of 34 from. So let's take a look at another one, 2.8 centimeters to millimeters. So we're going from a big unit to a small unit. That's what they said here. So you're converting a larger unit to a smaller unit. So we've got these larger units. Here's a centimeter. Here's about what a centimeter looks like. And it's about the width of your finger there. And here's another centimeter. And so I've got 2.8. So 2.8, well, there would be my 0.8. There's 1, 1, and 0.8. So I'm making now these centimeters into millimeters. So there's lots of millimeters. There's 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. And so since I'm going from a large unit to a small unit, I multiply. And so that moves the decimal 1 space to the right because I'm multiplying by 10. So 1 space to the right, and that makes 28. So a way that I like to think of this is a stair step for units. And so I'm going to go ahead and draw this out for you, and this might be a good way to think about it. And these are going to have more units than we're going to end up dealing with. So I start off on my top stair at kilo, because that's usually the largest one we're going to deal with. And then after that, it goes hecto, and then we have deca, and then we have the base unit. And so the base unit could either be a meter, liter, or a gram, but we're dealing with just a meter in this case. And then the next stair down here is going to end up being a deci. And then we've got another one down here, and we are at centi. And the last one we're going to deal with is milli. And so if you remember this, that as you're going, if we are going from a big unit, so big unit like up here, towards a smaller unit, like down in this direction, look which way we're going. The stairs are going down, but we're also going to the right. So that means you're going to move that decimal, move decimal right. And this chart tells you how many spaces. So for instance, if I'm going from kilo to milli, I'm going to end up moving that decimal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. 6 spaces right. So I'm just counting the spaces. So I'm counting the steps down. So I went down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 spaces. Well, if I'm going from a small unit to a large unit, I'm going up the stairs. But as I'm going up the stairs, I'm going to the left. And that's the way you move the decimal. So move decimal. Let's fix that real quick. Move decimal left. And you move that many spaces. So if I started at centi and I want it to go to deci, then I'd move it 1 space to the left. Or in this case, let's go back up to this example here at, let's see, we were at millimeters, and I went up to meters. I went 1, 2, 3 spaces up. And so I ended up having to go to the left 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3 spaces over. That made 34. So I might try that using that on these next few problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this little chart here. And we'll end up using that on these problems here. So, oops, don't want that. So let's go ahead and try copying that once more here. And here it is. So let's take a look at this first one here. Convert 16 kilometers to meters. And so are we going from we're trying to convert from a smaller unit to a larger unit, or a larger unit to a smaller unit. So if you look at it, kilometers is the bigger unit. So we're going from larger to smaller in this case. And so when we go to larger to smaller, what do? Well, we multiply is what we're going to end up doing. And what would we multiply by? Well, if we're starting at kilo, we're going all the way to meter. That is 1, 2, 3 spaces. So that means we're going to end up multiplying by 1,000, or moving the decimal to the right 3 times. So let's take a look at that. And so I'm going from kilometers, and 16 kilometers is right there, the decimal, and I'm moving at 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I'm adding 3 zeros, so that's going to be 16,000 meters. And taking a look at a couple other examples here, 6 meters to centimeters. So again, look at it. Here's the decimal point, and I'm going from meters, the base unit, down to centimeters. So I'm going from a big unit to a small unit. And so that means I end up needing to multiply. Moving the decimal to the right is the direction I go. 1, 2 spaces. So 1, 2 spaces adds those 2 zeros, so that's 600 centimeters. Taking a look at number 3 there, 162 kilometers. Now I'm up here at kilometers, going down to meters, going from a big unit to a small unit. So 1, 2, 3 spaces. Use the decimal 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I'm adding those 3 zeros. So 162,000. So let's take a look at the next one here, 4,000 meters. And I'm going to end up moving that decimal in the direction towards kilometers. So now I'm at the base unit meter, and I got to go up to kilometers. So notice I'm going from a small to a big. So that means I'm going to get the number smaller. Make the number smaller. 1, 2, 3 spaces. It moves over. 1, 2, 3. That makes 4 kilometers. And taking a look at the last one here, 25,000 millimeters. So I'm down here at millimeters. I'm going to the base unit of a meter. And that's 1, 2, 3 spaces. So I'm going from a small to a big number. So it goes over 1, 2, 3 spaces, right to that comma there. So 25 meters is the number of meters in 25,000 millimeters. So those are some of the problems that you might experience. Good luck.